nights ago with Siyata Deshmaya, the idea that's noted by Rav Chaim Kanevsky, the Sarah Torah, and a newly published Sefer Das Noite already came out. This is now a new Chelek Das Noite on Chumash Bamidbar. So in this week's Parshas Chukas with Siyata Deshmaya, let's turn to Daf Tov Lamed Vav. And here Rav Chaim Kanevsky was asked the following question. We have a Gemara and Bava Basra Kuf Chaf Aleph Amid Aleph, and the Gemara, the whole sugya at the end of Tainus. Various reasons, 6 reasons cited for celebrating Tu B'Av, 15th day of Av, that Mitzvah should be Ba'aleinu L'Tov V'Bekaro. And one of the reasons the Gemara mentions is that Kolu Bo Mesei Midbar, that those who were dying every single year after the Gezerah and the aftermath of the grave sin of Chet HaEgel. So now all of a sudden it stopped. There was a cessation. People stopped to die. And the Rashbam explains, Tibetes Vav Ba'av Shal Shnas Harboim, Hoover Lahem Shenis Batla Gezerah Shenigzro Ador Midbar Lamas V'yosu Mishta V'Simcha V'Yantif. Zog the Rashbam. Often art in the Sugya Bava Basra, what's the idea? They celebrated, they made a Mishnah B'Simcha, they realized they were digging their own graves, everybody went to lie down. This year they chab, end of the Gezerah. All those people between 20 and 60, the Gezerah came to an end. So what do? They celebrated, just like we celebrate Tu B'Av. Zok Rashbam, they made a Mishnah B'Simcha Niyantif. The kasha l'chariyish l'tmuah eishayish also yomishta v'simcha on Tu B'Av of that year of the Shnas Arboim. Didn't Aaron the Kohen die in Rosh Chodesh Av, as the Pasuk makes it very clear? Paraklam Gimel Pasuk Elam Neches of this week's parsha, and the Pasuk continues to be made that the Avelis and Mises Aaron was what Vayivka Kol Beis 30 days. 30 days, he dies in Rosh Chodesh Av. 30 days, they're in a period of mourning, Shloshim. How could they be in the middle of Shloshim? And they're making a Mishnah V'Simcha because Kol Bo Mesei Midbar. How could that be? It's a Stira Minei Bay. It's an inherent contradiction. Zok the Sarah Torah, brevity at its best, as he typically does. Zok the Chaim Kanevsky, 6 words. Agam Bochu v'Agam Osu Yom Tov. That's it. They did both simultaneously. They cried for Aaron and Kohen, and they made it a Yom Tov at the same time. Now, yes, the Binyan Ariel, Frek the Kasha, that we know that the Dibur now spoke to Moshe Rabbeinu, I the Shechina only Shoira, Mito Simcha, not Mito Chatzis. Teretz is what? You see them in Bay, even though it was this man of Atzvus, it was still simultaneously in the very context of the same 30 days of the Avelis of Aaron and Kohen. It's not a stira. You can mamish have both. And this is something that the L'chaira we see even in Moshe Rabbeinu's own Petira. When it comes to Moshe Rabbeinu, we know that he wasn't allowed entry into Eretz Yisrael. Why Yanlo Aktisheni, as we see mentioned yet again in the context of this week's parsha, Moshe and Aaron, they hit the rock, not speaking. Again, many Rishonim, Shitas, Ramam, Ramban, many Rishonim, Anachom, getting into the foray. What exactly was the nature of the sin? As we mentioned, Shishim Pincus writes that we don't even know the nature of the sin. You know why? The Torah wasn't Megala, did not disclose to us outright the precise nature. That's why we have bandied about the Shitas and the Rishonim and the Achronim. What exactly was the Chet of Moshe Rabbeinu? Up to Pincus and Tiferes Torah. We don't know exactly. We have a machlekes just like by Nodav and Avihu. By Nodav and Avihu as well, the Divrei Chana Haverstam says we have so many opinions, 6 to 10 different opinions in Chazal. What was the Chet of Nodav and Avihu? Teretz says we don't really know. It was a Chet that was beyond our comprehension. But Frekter Shishim Pincus, why didn't the Torah at least give us a hint? Because had the Torah put it in what Moshe Rabbeinu's precise sin was, then Moshe Rabbeinu would have known about it as well. We don't know it, but what was the Chet by Mei Mariva? Was the Chet that he struck the rock instead of speaking to it? That's only one sheet in the Rishonim. What exactly was the Chet with the Torah? Does it why every time the Torah spells out Chatam, so we could glean the all-important messages and extract cogent and compelling lessons to take for us a Dorei Dora. So why wasn't the Torah Megala? Teretz is Zokta Pinkis, because had the Torah spelled it out, that Moshe Rabbeinu would have known about it himself. And since Chazal tell us Ein davar ha'omer b'fnei ha'tshuva, Moshe Rabbeinu would have done tshuva. He would have done tshuva, and he would have been mechaper of his avera. And then he would have gone and Eretz Yisrael. So the Eibishter says, I can't go in and reveal to him the precise nature of the wrongdoing. If I put it in the Torah outright, then even Moshe would have to know about it. Saying, well, once something's in the Torah, let's say, Thomas Devorah Menekes Rivka, Zok Rashi and the Ramban Alon Bachus, not only did Devorah the Menekes Rivka pass away, but we also get a subtle hint to Misas Rivka herself. Why didn't the Torah spell it out? Had the Torah spelled it out, people would have cursed the stomach, the Kresa that gave birth to an Esau. Frek the Velta Kasha. But at the end of the day, they might curse her anyway. Aren't they going to know about it? No. If the Torah writes about it, then the world's going to know about it. If the Torah doesn't write about it, then at the end of the day, not everybody will know about it. So it's over here. Moshe couldn't know what exactly he did wrong. Then he would have done tshuva the same way. Ein davar fnei tefillah. Nothing stops in the way of tefillah. So what did Hashem have to tell him? When he was davening, Va'es Chanan Gematria 5:15, Gematria Megalamukas Yitzchak and Rivka, the Amudei Tefillah Yitzchak 208, Rivka 307, Tefillah Balatur Meshira, that's Va'es Chanan 5:15. Hashem had to tell him, Rav Loch, stop right here, because had Moshe Rabbeinu, even with the Gezerah, had Moshe Rabbeinu reached Tefillah number 516, he would have gone in. Fascinating cheshbon of the Pnei Yeshua and Brachas, how you get to these 515 tefillahs, but had he davened number 516, he would have repealed the entire Gezerah and he would have gone in. Hashem Yisbarach to tell him Rav Lach, and likewise Hashem couldn't tell him the precise nature, the ofi of the chaitz that Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't do tshuva shleim. So we know it's a big tzara. Moshe Rabbeinu couldn't go into the land, and yet what? At the same time, Moshe Rabbeinu zok the Yalkut Shimoni. You know why Hashem didn't have Moshe Rabbeinu go into the land? Because when Moshe Rabbeinu crossed over the Gevul, the boundary into Eretz Yisrael, he would have passed over the threshold, made his way to Yerushalayim. He would have built the Beis Hamikdash, and Moshe Rabbeinu built the Beis Hamikdash. It can never be destroyed. And if it can never be destroyed, just like the Yalkut goes on to say, David HaMelech, not only because he spilled blood, Frank the Belt the Kashas, Wachemes Mitzvah, and that was the Ratzon Amori, Teretz Zok the Yalkut. The reason is, and Moshe Rabbeinu built the Beis Hamikdash, it can never be destroyed. Had David HaMelech likewise built the Beis Hamikdash, once again it can never be destroyed. And what? And then we wouldn't have what? Shavach Hamaso Al Eitzim Avanim and Klal Yisrael. Zalka Shlog Kodesh, Shem Yishua, many different Terutzim. How could Yirmiyahu Novi and Megillah Secha Parakal Pasuk Tezvav Karlai Moed called Tisha B'Av a Moed? One famous answer is it's a Moed. Why? Because by destroying the Beis Hamikdash and the Eibishter venting Kaviyochel is Chaf and Chima on the base, on the sticks and stones of the bias, he thereby spared Klal Yisrael. Mela was a Gevaldige Simcha Tzvachinas a Moed, because Hashem Shavach Hamosa had Moshe Rabbeinu been allowed entry into Eretz Yisrael, he would have erected the Beis HaMikdash. Had he put up the Beis HaMikdash, it can never be destroyed. And Hashem wouldn't have the outlet, Kavayochol, event taking out the anger. He would have had to destroy Klai. So now he was able to destroy the Beis. What do you see? The greatest sorrow for Moshe Rabbeinu in his life, he couldn't go into Yisrael. He wanted the mitzvah, Satuli Yisbaret, only wanted his dream. Says the Yalkut. He pleaded with the Eibishter. He says, Hashem, let me go in as anything. Let me go in as a bird. Let me at least see it. Let me go in as a fish. Let me swim in the sea. Anything. Let me go in as an animal, as any creature. I just want to go in. That was this entire Shiva Sachaim. I want to go into Yisrael. Teretz is. In the end of the day, Hashem says, yes, for you it's the biggest tragedy, but Moshe Rabbeinu, who cared more about Klal Yisrael than Moshe Rabbeinu? Who puts his life on the line? Bochas Amar Beis Amar Aleph, Olam Hazeh, Olam Haba, to save Klal Yisrael after Chet Egel. Who's the one who saves Klal Yisrael after the sin of the golden calf? Who's the one who's pleading after Chedra all the time? He's saving Klal Yisrael. His whole life was putting Sayas Olam Hazeh, Sayas Olam Haba on the line, because nobody loved and nobody led a Klal Yisrael like Moshe Rabbeinu, our beloved Rabbi. And he can't go into Yisrael. But what Shifa would he want? That Kufa, by not going into Yisrael, he saves Klal Yisrael Delosid, the Klal Yisrael that in his lifetime he went constantly to save and to spare them and to have Rachmanis. He has the ultimate display of Rachmanis. He's sacrificing his own life's dream. And Eibishter Kilu knows what the Moshe Rabbeinu would takawat to give up his life's dream, so that one day he will not have a Beis Hamikdash that he built that will force the Eibishter to destroy Klal Yisrael. So we have something that at first glance seems to be a tragedy, Klape even Moshe Rabbeinu, and yet what? It was a big bracha, just like Chaitam Raglim, Shlach Lecha. What Shlach Lecha? Shlach Hadoshim. What's Lecha? Well, we had Lech Lecha. Lecha, Zok Rashi at the beginning of Lech Lecha. Allah Noscha Tavoscha. What's La Noscha Tavoscha? Teretz is, by the Meraglim messing up, Moshe Rabbeinu got something good out of it. He got to live another 40 years, because in the end of the day, he had a decree he wasn't going to go into Yisrael. Everything in life, there's something good, there's something bad. And we could cry, and we could be b'simcha at the same time. The same way we mentioned the Gemara Rosh Hashanah and the Gemara Moed Katan, Chav Chesem and Aleph. We have Mitzad Echad, Shkula Misasan Shal Tzadikim Kashrevas Beis Elokeinu. Mitzad Sheni, Misat Tzadikim is Machaper Umatar like the Paraduma. So again, the same type of thing. You can have a tzaddik who leaves this world, or Chaim Kanevsky leaves this world, and you know what? It's a tragedy beyond words. Ef Shal Letayr. Although even though you're super to lose the Golador, the Saratayra, it's Kasrevas Beis Elokeinu, and yet Mitzad Sheni, it's Machaper beyond our wildest dreams. Tzadikim is miso, their tragic demise serves as an unbelievable kapara for the entire generation. Mitzad echad, it's a tzara. Mitzad sheni, it's something happy. Sameila, it's no stira. In the same tkufa, you could be mourning the death, the demise of Aaron HaKohen, the Oy Shalom Rodeh Shalom, Mitzad sheni. But everybody else in Klal Yisrael is dying, and you could go and be b'simcha. And who is the ultimate representative of such Mahalach HaChaim? Something we've spoken about many times. Nobody l'chorah demonstrates this more than Rabbi Akiva. What is Rabbi Akiva? He's the one. He loses all his Talmidim, 24,000. He is the undisputed Golden Hador, the Tan Eloki, and he loses all his Talmidim except for what? Five Talmidim on that. Who would go on after this? He started his career at 40 years old. He's already way into his career. He is the Rosh Hashiva of the world, and yet what? He loses Kamat everybody out to the worst, to Misa Saskara. In a short time, he had thousands of Levias every day. Imagine how many he has. How do you go on as a mensch? Go weiter like that. So it says that's the power of the Akiva. He looks at, he says, I lost all the 24,000, but what? Like the famous Kasha, the Pri Chodesh. What are we celebrating, Lag Boimber? We just lost 24,000. Now, what are we celebrating? That there's still a sense of Hemshechiyut, of continuity. We got 5, the Chamisha Shabbat, Ramei, Rabbi Yehuda, V'chulei, and we still have a sense of going weiter. Rabbi Akiva builds from the ashes. Always the continual optimist. And maybe we go to the Gemara at the end of Makkas. A whole life of Makkas, a whole life of getting hit. And the Sugya ends with what? He and his colleagues, Rabbi Akiva, are together in Gamliel. They're walking by the Makkah Mechurban, and they see the Shual HaMochma by the Kodesh HaKadoshim. They all start to cry, starts to laugh. Rabbi Akiva, what are you doing laughing? We know the Gemara. Akiva Nichantana, Akiva Nichantana. Why? Because the Nevuas, the prophecies of Uri and Zachariah, Tzluyim Be'al-Dodi, are interdependent. Mela, I see the foxes. Tzion Tzodeh, the Charish, I know that the Mela, Zakenim and Zakenis, Hayos, they're going to sit in the Shutz Yerushalayim. I know that great prophecy is right around the corner. He is the ever optimist, always positive, focusing on the future at a time of tzara. He was crying. Of course he had to cry. Zok Tamar Shoyev, you see the Mokom Beis HaMikdash B'Chabana, Kol Mas'abo Yisrael, Avadi, he had to take Kriya, Reish Kriya, Avadi took Kriya. And Avadi, he cried, but he laughed at the same time. He's crying inside and he's laughing inside. Something Rabbi Akiva taught the world. Avodah Zarah Chaf Aleph. He meets the wife of Turnus Rufus. Rok Socha Kubacha Rok, because he saw that she came from Tipa Sucha. Sochak, he laughed because he saw she's going to convert one day and he's going to marry her. And then he cried. Why? Because Hai Shufra the Boli Bafra, her exquisite beauty, was going to be buried in the ground. 3, not just 2, 3 contradictory emotions, laughing, spitting, and crying, all experienced simultaneously. That's the Koch Rabbi Akiva. But in the Makkas we see not just the Chiddush of the 2 emotions at the same time, as we mentioned many times, that tells Rosh Hashiva, Rabbi Gordon, and Rabbi Saronskin. They all mention the same idea, that you see that Avram Avinu, he is crying while he's doing that Kedah. He's besimcha that he gets to do the Ratzon HaBorei, and he's crying all the while. Rabbi Akiva is always setting his sights in the future, always the optimist. That's the Galdus of Rabbi Akiva, focusing on the future. So let me share one little horror in that regard. We have a Gemara in Maseches Makkas at the end of the second parak, and the Gemara says, "Le'badam Yud Beis." On base, we have a machlokes. We start out Rabbi and Rabbi Yehuda, and then the Gemara has a second machlokes. After the one who killed the Shogeg leaves the Ir Miklat, and when he leaves the Ir Miklat, does he go back to the lofty position he might have had beforehand? State in the Gemara of Achozel l'Sor Shayaba, Divrei Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda Merloy Achozel l'Sor Shayaba. And the Gemara explains in the Hemshech Hasugya the Nekudas Machlokes based on how you darshim Sukkim. According to Rabbi Meir, he goes back to the position if he was a Nasi, if he was an Avbeist, and he goes back to his illustrious position. According to Rabbi Yehuda, you don't go back. You lost it, that's it, it's gone. So how do we paskin? Well, we know we have a Klal Yodua and Shas. Shas, every machlokes Rabbi Yehuda, we always paskin Rabbi Yehuda. We don't paskin Meir. Chazal we couldn't be yoring the sof daito. Rabbi Meir, we paskin like Rabbi Yehuda. If we paskin like Rabbi Yehuda, frek the Taisus Yontif on the Bartanura. Let's go to that Mishnah that closes the second parak of Maseches Makos. And Rabbi Meir told us Chozul l'Sroyer Shahayabah. Then he goes back to his position, whether he was a Nasi, whether he's an Outbasted. According to Rabbi Yehuda, he doesn't go back to the lofty position. You kill B'shogeg, you went to the city of refuge, that's it. Zok the Bar Tanura, he brings the Pasuk Rameir Shita, V'shavah M'shavah Achuz Avosav Yoshev, Avachulei, Zok the Bar Tanura, Ein Allah Rabbi Yehuda. Over here we paskin Rabbi Meir. How we paskin Rabbi Meir? Fred the Taisus Yontif Tema, the Kaimalon we hold in God Shas, or Meir Rabbi Yehuda, Halach Rabbi Yehuda, Kamosh Pasuk Amkein, the same with the Bartanur in the first machlokes, paskin Rabbi Yehuda, and the Rambam makes it very clear. So what's going on? Ein Kedai Lomer Shachriya, the halacha, because the lishna of the pasuk, I don't want to say that he leaves over the kasha. How could the Bartanur paskin neged a klal and Shas? What are we doing? Paskining Rabbi Meir. So the Feiner the name of the halach is as follows. We have a Gemara in Kedushin, Lamed Vav Amud Aleph, a famous brisa. A gewaltige brisa. Zogt the Gemara in Kedushin, Lamed Vav Amud Aleph, L'chnesanya, Abodim Atem LaHashem Elokeichem, Posek and Rei, Perkei Dalet Posek Aleph. We're called the bottom of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Abizman Shatem Noah Gimin Abodim Atem Kuyim Bodim. Einatem Noah Gimin Abodim. Einatem Kuyim Bodim. Divrei Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yehuda says when you act like Bodim to Hashem, then you call Bodim. But if you misuse and abuse that relationship, Hashem doesn't refer to you as Bonim. Rabbi Meir Omer, no, Beikach Atem Kriyim Bonim. Hashem, and he brings a pasuk. Zokta Meir, even when we misbehave, even when we go off the path, even when we mamish mess up big time, afilu hachi, you're always Bonim Atem L'Hashem Elokeichem. That's Rabbi Meir. Zok the Rashba, how do we paskin? Over here in Kedusha Lamavava, we paskin Rabbi Meir. Are you going to ask of me that halacha, Rabbi Meir, Rabbi Yehuda, Kaimalon, halachi Rabbi Yehuda, that's only by halacha. But when it comes to Inyani Agadata, we can paskin Rabbi Meir, Zok the Rashba. Over here we paskin Rabbi Meir. So let's we mamshach the Kabbalah. What do we see from the Rashba? The one time that we paskin Rabbi Meir is what? Even when Klal Yisrael messes up, even when we go ahead and do something terribly wrong, we never lose the lofty choice appellation. Like Rabbi Yehuda, Rabbi Meir, a Talmud of Rabbi Akiva. Rabbi Akiva is the one in the third parak of Avos that tells us that we're all created and he doesn't say, Rabbi Akiva, he doesn't even hint that we can lose that status. Very geshmak. Rabbi Meir, the Talmud, who carries on the message, the modus vivendi of Rabbi Akiva, his Rebbe, says what? My Rabbi Akiva, he's always looking to the future. He sees the foxes walking through the Beis HaMikdash. I see, the Beis HaMikdash is going to be rebuilt. The Meir sees, and the same Rabbi Akiva, you're always called Badim L'Makom, Badim Atem L'Shem Elokeichem. Rabbi Meir's Talmud says even when we misbehave, we're always called Badim Atem L'Shem Elokeichem. And Meila Lefi Aniyastaiti, let's be mamshich the Rashba Hala. We can understand the Bartanura, Zok the Bartanura, a guy messed up, he hayaloli zar, and that's why he has to go through the kapara of an Eir Miklat, because he messed up, he should have been a little more careful. He kills Bashar, he goes to an Eir Miklat. Rabbi Yehuda says, you went to an Eir Miklat, that's it. Once you leave an Eir Miklat, you messed up, you don't go back to being a Nasi, you don't go back to being an Abasted. And Meir says, no, he darshans a pasuk, what, you didn't mess up. You messed up a little, you got your kapara, Eir Miklat, go right back to being the Nasi, right back to being the Abasted. Stay positive. Meir says you messed up. You still called Bonim Atem L'Shem Elokeichem. And you were Nasi. You were not based, and you killed B'shogeg. You did your tshuva. You still go back to being the Nasi Abasted. So like the Rosh Kedusha Lamed Vav very geshmak. Efshar that would explain the Bartanura, who's being Mosif a little vital on the Chiddush of the Rashba, and therefore in this machlokes is going back. He says we're going to paskin Rabbi Meir. That's Rabbi Meir, the forever optimist like Rabbi Akiva. Let's focus on the positive. Let's bring him back. By Sai, a lot of tzara is going on in the world today. Let's focus on the positive. Yes, news just came out today. Ukraine is not letting anybody in for Rosh Hashanah right now. So again, what about the 50,000, 60,000? They're not going to, man. Everyone is commenting. Where are they all going? They're always invited to the White Shul. All the 50,000, 60,000. But I guarantee you what? The wives are celebrating. The wives are happy. At least they have the wives. And the people always asking, Rabbi, Rabbi Feiner. And at the end of the day, should we go to Uman? I said, what's your sheet about Uman? I don't have a clear sheet. You know what my sheet is? If it works for you, and it does, it's a chelik and enhances Avodah Hashem, that gives a day. A Yid's got to do whatever he feels is the best for his Avodah Hashem. Uman works for you. That's it. You want to go. Rav Nachman's fire is going to carry us through the days of Mashiach. I want to know them go. The one said, but you got to be careful not to get burnt along the way. The fire is going to carry us to the days of Mashiach. If it works for you, Givaldik. We can still daven, it can still happen. Rabbi say, in every tragedy, we still got to wait. There's still always a double shel simcha. We got to stay optimistic. We got to stay positive. Whatever happens in the world, they're always, who needs to go to Uman? And Hashem, Mashiach Tzidkenu, we're all going to the Malkam HaMikdash. And Hashem, Kom Neshu'alim. We're going to have Chidodik, Osios Yishmael. We're going to get rid of Yishmael by the Malkam HaMikdash, and we're going to be celebrating and having in Rosh Hashanah. And Hashem, this year, Kol Yisrael, B'yachad, Kavim Kol Yisrael, and the year Shechubru LaYachdav with Bias Kol Tzedek. Hey, Rav Yameinu, Amen, have a wonderful night. Shmaka Lichtiga, Lebe Dik, Sham Shechanani, Menakam Shomer.